Alright, let's start from the beginning. As you probably noticed, I love Spider-Man. Ever since I was a kid when I was first introduced to the character with the Raimi trilogy. Then that translated to the many animated shows, then into the games, then the comic books, and even the Japanese Spider-Man is cool. And since Across the Spider-Verse is right around the corner and everyone is hyped up about it, including myself, I wanted to make something more memorable, something that is not just a simple illustration. And recently I got myself a 3D printer, and I thought it would be cool that the first figure I ever printed would also be the first figure I ever made on 3D. But the problem was, I'm not a 3D artist, I've never even touched a 3D program before. So that was going to be a bit of a challenge. And I also wanted to do something that is cool while I was learning the program. At least that will keep things interesting through the whole process. But in order to do that, I had to pick something that was really awesome and had really simple design. And quite frankly, there was only one guy who had it all.
Tell me there's something better. Go ahead, try.
I mean, really, there is no better choice. So when I opened ZBrush, this menu popped out, which has a lot of essential things that you can start with. And it even has a preset of the human body, which I actually used and helped me out a lot and saved a lot of time. And I guess you can call it cheating, but I don't really care.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
And after a few tutorials, some trials and errors, figuring out how to move or add or subtract different things, I was like, oh shit, actually that looks like the Spectacular Spider-Man. And I really got confident in myself and decided to make this whole thing into a video. And of course, while I was working on it, I had to gather multiple references for the Spectacular Spider-Man from every angle. And that helped me not only for his body shape, but also for the webbing on his suit. Because I wanted to make it as accurately as possible to the show. And actually the webbing of the suit was the most challenging and fun part of the whole thing. Basically what I had to do was mask the webbing. That means draw all the web lines on the model using a masking brush. And then you click and extract the whole thing and the webbing just pops out. And it's even on its own separate layer, which is called a subtool. And that was so satisfying, it kinda even looked like the webbing on the Raimi suit. Then I made the spiders on the front and the back, and the process was the same with the extracting and everything. The only difference is that I used images to help me out to make it more accurate.
You're a hack!
And the one thing that is not completely accurate is the body. I made it a little bit more realistic in some areas. And by this moment I was really hyped up. I was like, okay, I'm actually done. This is it, this is perfect. And I tried to rig it in ZBrush, but it just didn't work for me, and I found another solution that was way easier and actually was really helpful to decide what the pose will be for the figure. And it's not even a program, it's a website called Mixamo. And after I extracted the file from ZBrush and imported it to Mixamo, some really cool magic started happening. It's alive! I'm really speechless right now, look at him go! Let's do the twist. I mean, you can spend hours looking for poses and just be lost in this website because it has so much variety. It's insane. It even has many Spider-Man poses. I can have him wall crawling, swinging, and you can simply leave it as a T-pose because this website rigs the model actually. So I've already done this off screen, but just to show you what I had to do, I had to import my rig Spidey into Maya, which is another 3D program. So now I was able to move everything however I wanted, like his arms, legs, fingers. And then I import to Maya the original model and then transfer the pose using UV maps from the rigged Mixamo Spidey to the original Spidey. And this whole process done because Mixamo messes the vertex orders, whatever that means, I don't know. And then this happened, which is actually caused by the webbing and the bad generated UV maps. So basically what I think was the problem is that the webbing was just a too complicated object to generate UV maps from. But until I realized that, I tried to make some tweaks to the model and generate new UV maps. I did that several times. Sometimes it turned better, sometimes it turned worse, and sometimes I got errors. The good thing was that the file kept all the subtools, so the thing I had to do was just delete the webbing and do it all over again. Hooray! But anyways, here's a fun fact to lighten up a little bit. The very first time I was introduced to the Spectacular Spider-Man was in this game called Spider-Man Friend or Foe. And I've played this game a lot, with friends or against them, so naturally I had to discover every secret it had. And when you go to Nick Fury and you click on movies, there's this trailer of the Spectacular Spider-Man. And at first I thought, well, this looks weird, but then Spider-Man just started kicking ass. I never thought that animation can be so fluid and the action can have so much impact. And just when I started thinking it couldn't get even more awesome, right? They tease you with all the classic Spider-Man villains.
My mind totally blown.
And not to mention that the show had some great story arcs and the characters were so well developed. Too bad it wasn't finished. I really wanted to see what blonde Norman Osborn was up to. Alright, let's get back to it now. Since the body was deformed in a lot of places, I had to fix that before drawing the new webbing on top. And after all that, I was a bit scared to leave it just as it is, because I thought it won't stand properly, so I made a stand as well, which was going to be printed separately. And since I took a break and forgot to press record, here's the finished Spidey in 3D with the stand and everything and how it's supposed to look like. I really wanted to put the logo in the stand that says the Spectacular Spider-Man, but I didn't want it to be flat. I wanted to stand out, and I wanted it to be big enough so it can be seen from distance. And the stand should resemble some sort of a rooftop, or at least a part of a rooftop. And for those who are wondering, I made the logo pretty easily. I just imported it as a vector file. You can do that even with text. You can type it on ZBrush and then it pops and becomes 3D. As you can see, it's not perfect because it's a logo, it's not the actual text, but with some fixes here and there you can make it happen. So I guess what's left for you now to see is the finished figure in real life. Okay, here's finally the finished figure in all its glory. I'm really happy how it turned out. I also made these leg things, which you can attach it to these holes that I made in the box. And the box could have been made better. Because right now it's a solid thing. You'd think that the top part separates, but it doesn't. And it should have been better if it does, then it will be a real box actually. But it's not. And I can't believe this actually worked. As you can see when I put my finger, the webs on the armpits are semi-transparent. I mean, I tried to make them as thin as possible in ZBrush and it actually worked. And as thin as they are, they're pretty solid. There is no way of breaking them. But actually this is my second printing. The first one kind of failed because I didn't level my printer properly. And he is a bit bigger, so the details are a little bit more visible. But I'm actually surprised that this thing printed the whole way through. I mean, the only messed up thing is the leg. You can see the layers that were building and then separating. And after I fixed the leveling of the printer, I thought just in case I'm gonna change the positioning of the figures because that could also be the problem. I don't know, I was just overthinking at this point. So I tried to position them in different ways. And I positioned this like this or like this, I don't remember. And I positioned the other guy like this. And all the supports went into the back and messed up the back. But again, I think with a little bit of sanding it could be fixed up. And I guess all it's left to do now is to paint the figure. Someday, probably. I hope so. But yeah, I guess that's about it. Thanks for watching.